Hello, I'm Rick Reda, and I'm a photographer on exhibit at the Loft Gallery in Occoquan. I've had the good fortune to do a fair amount of traveling, and in this video I'd like to invite you to come with me to a few of my favorite places. Yellowstone National Park is a fascinating place to see any time of year, but in the winter it is spectacular. These images were taken on a National Geographic expedition a few years ago. The Yellowstone Park bison herd is one of only 4 free-roaming herds on public lands in North America. The park itself is almost 3,500 square miles and is home to almost 40 species of animals, including the elusive bobcat, 2 of which graced us with their presence. Being centered over the Yellowstone caldera, the largest supervolcano in North America, it abounds with hot springs, geysers, mud pots, and fumaroles. It was the world's first national park and is one of America's most famous, for obvious reasons. Our next stop is almost on the other side of the world, Botswana, in the southern part of Africa. We stayed in a lodge on the Chobe River, observing the wildlife from a different perspective. The Chobe is fairly wide and has numerous shallow areas where reeds grow freely. These areas are ideal places for the herds of elephants to gather, where they have a tremendous line of sight to watch for potential predators and vast fields in which to eat. The Chobe is also home to the Cape buffalo and a lot of crocodiles, as well as a wide variety of birds. But it was the elephants that really drew my attention. Traveling a little further east, we visited the country of Tanzania. Here we spent time in a Maasai village before venturing into the Serengeti. The plains of the Serengeti are much different than the shores of the Chobe, but no less interesting. Going even further east, we arrived in India. Someone once described India as an assault on the senses, and it's a fairly accurate description. but not necessarily in a bad way. India is more than a sightseeing trip. You can be overwhelmed, certainly, by the crowds and the seeming chaos. But also by the colors. And the aroma of the food offered by street vendors everywhere. As well as the sites themselves, including the architecture of such structures as the Qutb Minar in Delhi, the Hawa Mahal and the City Gate in Jaipur, and of course the Taj Mahal in Agra. And the wildlife in Ranthambore National Park. But for me, the most interesting place was Varanasi, home of Buddhism and a sacred city for the Hindus. Our journey included an evening boat ride up the Ganges River, where we were joined by hundreds of other boats to witness a Hindu Aarti ceremony. This is done every evening and again at sunrise, and was a special way to end this voyage. The most unusual place I've been to, and the last one on this journey, is Antarctica, Earth's southernmost continent. Setting off from the Cape of Good Hope and a day and a half on the Drake Passage, the South Shetland Islands were our first sighting. Our first landfall was Half Moon Island, home of the chinstrap penguins. Then on to the Gerlach Strait and Iceberg Alley. What many people don't know is that Antarctica is a desert, with an average snowfall of only about 2 inches a year. When you see massive icebergs floating 50, 60, 70 feet or more above the water, and realize that 2/3 of that is still below the surface, it boggles the mind to think of how old this ice really is. At Nico Harbor, we had a chance to climb to a spot overlooking the bay. What is almost as amazing as the beauty is the absolute quiet. Except when you're surrounded by penguins, then it can get a bit noisy. And then almost as soon as it began, our adventure was over.